Hey guys, welcome to this episode of the Mark of Balance podcast. My name is Mark, and today we're just going to run through the list of all the announced shows and future projects for Star Wars. I know I'm still catching up with all the news. I just released the Mando Season 2 recap weeks after it's announced. I know this is weeks later, but I want to get my thoughts out there, and maybe you guys will agree or disagree with me. Either way, that's fine. And even though I love Star Wars, and I find a way to love every bit of it, and all the content that comes out of it, I'm definitely not afraid of being critical of it, or being cautiously optimistic, which is basically my rule of thumb now with Disney owning Star Wars. They've done a lot of good things with Star Wars. I think they've also done a couple questionable things with Star Wars, and a couple of these shows kind of bring out those questionable choices that they've made so far. And when I get into it, you'll know what I'm talking about. So I just have the list in front of me on the Star Wars website. I'm just going to go through, give my thoughts, and that's pretty much it. So to get started, we have Rogue Squadron coming from Patty Jenkins, who did the Wonder Woman franchise. I obviously think she has a lot of talent, and I really like that she has a background with fighter pilots, and her dad was a fighter pilot, and unfortunately he passed away. And it seems like something that has like a deep-rooted love with her, and she also seems to know Star Wars as well. So I like that part of it, but once again, I'm cautiously optimistic with this, only because Rogue Squadron usually implies between the original trilogy timeline. And when it comes to that timeline, I feel like Rogue One, Rebels, and obviously the original trilogy have covered a lot of ground here, and I don't see what story could be told here that would have galaxy-wide impact. If it is a small self-contained story, I'd like that very much too, and I hope it is. But I think anything dealing with the Death Star or anything on a large scale has already been tackled already. So I'm curious to see where this story goes, but I do like, obviously, the idea of a small squadron, a close-knit group that has to accomplish a mission. I just hope that it doesn't retread old territory. But I think Patty Jenkins is a good choice for this. I like her roots, and I'm cautiously optimistic to see where she takes it. Next down, we have the Taika Waititi film. The guy makes funny movies, and he makes really heartfelt movies. Obviously, we don't know much about it, but we know it's going to be super unique, probably super out there and weird for Star Wars, which is fine. I love when they do new stuff. So this one, I'm actually not cautiously optimistic. I'm very optimistic on this one, and I'm interested to see where he takes it. And next, we have the granddaddy of them all, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, a story we've wanted to hear for 10, 15 years probably, ever since we thought it was a possibility that we would get this story. I am so excited to see Obi-Wan being vulnerable in this point, reflecting, even probably touching on mental health, which is really important nowadays. I'll let you know now, Obi-Wan is my favorite character in Star Wars, and if not, he's like top 2, but not 2. I just love his tragic story of how he does everything right, and he tries to bend the rules to help his Padawan Anakin, and that ultimately led him down a path of darkness and opened that door for him. But it was obviously never in the intention of Obi-Wan because he always plays by the rules, so... But yeah, I think this series has so much potential. I love that it's a limited series. It's only 10 episodes or 8, whatever it is. I don't think they should stretch this out. I think this should be a tight, self-contained story with Obi-Wan. I think it'll be interesting. I'm sure we'll see Qui-Gon as a Force Ghost. Obviously, Obi-Wan has to learn how to become a Force Ghost. I think that'll be explored here, obviously. And I just think it's going to be really emotional and really deep, and I'm so excited for it. And then obviously Hayden Christensen coming back is like something that we've wanted for a while, and I think a lot of people didn't think it was going to happen because there was a stigma around him that he wasn't a good actor or something like that. I think he's a great actor. I think he was great in the films. Obviously, some of the dialogue he was given, he did the best with. But I think the subtle acting he did throughout the prequels was really convincing and really sold the character. And I think his appearance in this will be less as Darth Vader, but more as Anakin Skywalker in flashbacks with Obi-Wan to the Clone Wars. I just don't see the point of him being in the suit if you're not going to see his face. His voice, I don't think is as commanding as Darth Vader, so I wouldn't see the point there. But if they did a mixture of it like they did in Rebels, that'd be cool. Anyway, seeing these two on the screen again with a deep emotional story, I think it's a winning combination, and I really hope they pull it off. Next we have the Ahsoka series. Showrunner Dave Filoni. Rosario Dawson looked great as Ahsoka. I think she captured her really great. I don't have much else to say. You know I'm a Clone Wars guy. This show is like the epitome of what I wanted out of Star Wars. And then obviously the mention of Thrawn in Mandalorian makes this series have so much upside. I think Sabine will be in it. I think Ezra will be in it. And it's going to be in a time period we haven't explored a lot of. So I think this is going to be great. Now there's going to be a little dip in the excitement when it comes to shows. Rangers of the New Republic, obviously it's something they set up in The Mandalorian with Cara Dune meeting the other officers from the New Republic. I don't think Cara Dune can carry a show. I don't think she's a character that needs her own show. I think she's a great supporting character, but it's a reoccurring theme with Disney that they now need to give everyone a spin-off, or every character needs to be able to carry their own show. And this isn't confirmed that it's Cara Dune, but I'm almost positive it is. And the New Republic, it's an interesting era, only from the political side, and I guess the grittiness of it, there isn't really a power right now. It's a kind of a vacuum. The book Bloodlines goes into it really well, and I think that political drama of the era is really interesting with Leia. But other than that, I think The Mandalorian pretty much covers all those bases. The only saving grace I see with the show is obviously Dave Filoni is the showrunner for this, and I can't not trust that guy with my life when it comes to Star Wars. So I'm cautiously optimistic. Cautious because Cara Dune leading a show, I don't know. And optimistic because Dave does no wrong when it comes to Star Wars. So we'll see. Next, we have Lando, another character I don't think needs his own show. He was cool in Solo. I love Childish Gambino. Makes great music. Good actor. But when I watched Solo, you could tell he was doing a Billy D. Williams impression of Lando. And he was charming, of course, but I just didn't think Lando needed a backstory. I think when you give all these mysterious characters backstory, it takes away what made them great in the original trilogy. So seeing Lando get a whole show, I'm not really into it. I'll still watch it, obviously. I'm hoping it's going to be a limited series. It won't be stretched out for a long time, but we'll see. So, cautiously optimistic. Next, we have Andor. Once again, I loved Andor in Rogue One. Him and K2 were the best parts of Rogue One. I think they were awesome characters, but I think that was their peak character. I don't think going back to tell an origin story will make them better characters or will add to them, because I think we saw their total character arc in Rogue One. I loved his line in Rogue One where he said, "You just became a part of this rebellion. I've lived it my whole life." I think that line is enough for his whole backstory. I think it covers all the bases. I don't think you need to show that line. I think that line is tragic enough for the audience to get it and to understand he's seen some stuff. But once again, I'm cautiously optimistic because I like them in Rogue One. And I like the time period that Rogue One was in. I like the grittiness of them. So we'll see. Cautiously optimistic. And I know I added that bit in the beginning how I recorded this several weeks ago, but I just saw news today that K2 is not supposed to be in the Andor show, at least in the first season, which was confirmed by Alan Tudyk. I don't know how he couldn't be in the first season, unless it ends with them like meeting or like waiting for season 2, but I thought it was a limited series. I don't, without K2, oh man, that show, ugh. I really like K2 and Andor together. I think it was pretty much confirmed at the celebration me and my friend Steven went to that Alan would be in the show as K2. I don't know what happened. That's scary. That they either rewrote it or I don't know. Oh well, we shall see. Now we get into a good stretch. The Acolyte. I think this is going to be an awesome series. High Republic era, mystery thriller, something new for Star Wars for sure. And I just love that they're going into a new era. They're getting away from the Skywalker saga, doing something new, introducing new characters, showing a whole different galaxy. My only real gripe with this show would be that the new High Republic era books and comics and that whole 3-part phased approach of Star Wars content that's only going to be in books and comics. I really hope that this show isn't affected by that to the point where you need to do your homework and read these books and kind of separate the audience that way. I have my thoughts about the High Republic era thing. I'll probably release an episode about that or not. I'm still thinking about it. But I don't want the Star Wars fandom to be too split up by this that they can't enjoy Acolyte. I'm sure they'll write for it well to the point where you don't need to read the books. But I'm a little iffy about that. Because, you know, as someone that's as diehard as me, I don't like being out of the loop. And I don't think I could keep up with all the books and comics that they plan to release. So me feeling like I'm out of the loop or watching this show and not getting like a reference or something, that's going to be really weird for me. And I don't know if it'll happen, but we'll see. I am excited for the show. I think it's going to be great. But that was my only gripe with it. And I only bring it up because of Disney's track record with the books, either rewriting the movie or justifying the movies to a point where it breaks older movies just to justify one of the newer Disney movies. So it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility to think that these books would be requirements to fully understand what's happening in the series when it comes out. But that's just my 2 cents. And that's why you listen to the podcast, for my 2 cents. So there you go. Next, we have The Bad Batch, and oh man, if Ahsoka and Obi-Wan weren't announced, this would definitely be my most anticipated show. The Bad Batch, obviously, in the Clone Wars Season 7 was very archetypal. They were very structured characters. They all had their thing. They were very one-dimensional. So I'm not per se excited because of the characters themselves. I'm excited because the story is going to be so interesting. I remember when I was younger, might have been with my friend Steven or Troy, but we literally thought of this exact scenario. Like, what if the clones didn't follow Order 66 and went against it and fought other clones? Like, clones versus clones, like Imperial clones and then Defector clone squad. Like, we thought that would be like the coolest story because clones were everything when we were younger, obviously. So seeing that story now, like 15 years later, is like so cool. I think this timeline is so interesting. It's going to be so dark, and it's going to have that Season 7 Clone Wars animation. Oh, it's going to be beautiful. I'm very excited for the show. And now that we know how Order 66 happened with the clones, I won't go into it in case you guys want to watch the Clone Wars and find out for yourself. But I think that's going to be a really cool layer into this that we didn't know as a kid when we wanted the show, but now we do know why it happened and how the clones were set to do that order. So this is going to be awesome. Next, we have Visions, which is, again, at the top of my list. Visions being a bunch of short films done by the top Japanese anime studios. I'm a really big anime fan. I mean, I started like a couple years ago, and now I'm hooked. I always have to be watching an anime at some point. I mean, Attack on Titan right now is the best show on TV. No question, anime or live action. This show is unbelievable. If you aren't watching anime, that's fine, but you need to watch Attack on Titan because it is the best show on TV right now. But back to Visions, I think the anime style in Star Wars has been a marriage that has needed to happen for so long, and I can't believe it hasn't yet, other than the short YouTube videos that they show. I think the beautiful style of anime and all the different things you could do with it, the landscapes, the sky animations, all of that combined with the Star Wars galaxy and all the different planets and all the battles they can choreograph in anime style. I mean, I think this is going to be really, really special. I think it's underrated right now, but I think this is going to be the coolest one for sure. The next one obviously was announced at the end of Mandalorian Season 2, The Book of Boba Fett. Again, I'm cautiously optimistic. I don't think Boba Fett is a very compelling character that he could lead an entire show about him. I think he was more interesting as a child, obviously, because he saw his dad die. He left the clones, and he became a bounty hunter to survive, and he became a gang leader because all of the other high-end bounty hunters respected his dad. I think that was the most interesting part of Boba, but now I think he's just very hollow. Obviously, he makes jokes, but it's not like he has a very deep character arc that I can really see him following. And I think if they do try and introduce it, it'll be out of place with him. It won't feel organic. So my prediction for the Book of Boba Fett will be that it more follows Fennec and her being his right-hand woman when he starts this whole criminal underground empire. I think her seeing his rise to the top and maybe seeing him being really ruthless and her having an internal conflict that she's a part of it, I think that's a much more compelling story for a series than just following Boba Fett and Fennec being a side character. I think this show is really going to have to focus on Fennec for it to be interesting and to get you like hooked. I don't think they can just rest on Boba Fett being a badass at all. And the last show, a droid story. I don't know. It's about a droid and it's mentored by R2-D2 and C-3PO. It seems interesting. I don't know. Once again, I think droids are better as side characters or supporting characters in Star Wars than the main theme. So, if droids are your thing, this will probably be great. But I can't say I'm excited for it. It seems like it'll be aimed more towards kids, like kids, which is fine. That's what Star Wars should be. But yeah, I don't have much to say on that. And that pretty much wraps up all the shows. Those are all my thoughts. My main takeaways are, I think too many characters got spin-off shows that didn't need spin-off shows, or that they can't carry a spin-off show on their own. Another takeaway is the limited series, I think, is the future for Star Wars TV. I don't think everything needs to be episodic and strung out over multiple seasons. I think some of these stories should be tight, 8 to 10 episodes, miniseries, that's it. Get in, tell an extended story. Obviously, you can't fit it in a movie, so extend it to 4, 5, 6 hours of content. I think that's the future. I think if Star Wars wants to get that next level of critical acclaim, it needs to be less episodic in its shows and to have a very driven, story-based episodes every week. And I think it'll be taken more seriously critically, even though Mandalorian is critically acclaimed, but it is the first live-action Star Wars show, so people are going to have a little bit of rose-tinted glasses when watching it. The movies are really interesting. Surprisingly, no word on Rian Johnson's trilogy that was announced after The Last Jedi was premiered, so that might indicate something, but we don't know if that's still in the works or not. I lied. One last thing. I love Star Wars, obviously, and I love new Star Wars content. But the one thing that has made me scared most of all is that the more content that's made, there's more chances of me not enjoying Star Wars. And that's something that's weird because I never had to think about it, and most Star Wars fans usually never had to think about it because Star Wars never really flooded the market at any point. Content-wise, obviously toy-wise and merchandise, yeah. But like I said, while I love getting more Star Wars, it's just the more hands that are involved in making it, the less pure it becomes. And now there's more of a chance that I might not like something that's in Star Wars, or a piece of Star Wars content, like a show or a movie. All the movies that have come out so far, I've enjoyed. I can confidently say that. I haven't totally disliked anything, but with 11 shows coming out, or 10, I forget what it is, and 2 movies, it just makes me a lot more scared for the future, and me possibly not liking something Star Wars. Like, that's weird for me. I know it probably sounds dramatic, but I think there's a lot of Star Wars fans that probably feel the same way as me. But I am glad that a lot of different creators can have a say in what Star Wars is. I definitely don't want to discourage that. But the more you add to it, the more you might lose, if that makes sense. And that's about it. I definitely want to hear your thoughts on what you're excited about, what you're not excited about. If you agree or disagree with me, on my social medias, Instagram at @star_wars_Mark of Balance, or on Twitter at Mark of Balance. Want to hear from you guys. Want to get your thoughts. Want to talk about Star Wars. So until next time, stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon. May the Force be with you.